Are you ready for the golden age? The Quantum Galaxy Network presents Making Life Brighter on the Voice America Variety Channel, where we prepare you and the planet for the golden age. Making Life Brighter features experts in their field and visionaries sharing their unique keys for sustainability on Earth, including all cutting-edge healing modalities, consciousness training, and natural healing. Tune in every Thursday for valuable golden nuggets of universal harmony and coherency with body, mind, and spirit. Each week, Winifred introduces you to thought leaders, best-selling authors, influencers, and Grammy Award-winning musicians. Making Life Brighter is your source for inspiring us to live in cooperation and purpose as we prepare for the golden age and beyond. The Quantum Galaxy Network invites you to join Making Life Brighter as we prepare for the golden age. Making Life Brighter is your forum for healing, inspiring, and uplifting entertainment. Here is your host, Winifred Adams.
Good morning, everybody. I would just like to say welcome and thank you for being with Making Life Brighter. This morning we have a special show for you today, and I'm very excited to get into that. I hope you're having a great summer and you're going jolly. I also hope you're making other people's lives brighter, and that's what today's show is all about. So I'm going to be excited to share our special guest, and before I introduce him, we have a section we're going to do here as an update, and I want to share a couple really important things with you. First of all, you know how the data centers is a show that we covered early on before it hit out there and it was really big news. Well, the data centers are definitely potentially an issue in terms of taking our electricity, our power, our water. But there are solutions out there, and we need to champion those solutions coming forward. So last show I talked about how I'd been at that Tesla conference and all the technology that was there and the things that were coming, and that was it. It's just amazing. I've been using some of those devices, and I'm going to share that with you as we go over time, because as you know, the healing work that I do, the quantum healing work and all that, deals with bigger cases. It's not just people that are needing kind of a check-in, but rather people that have no more answers. And so when they come to my doorstep, usually I'm looking for those deeper answers, and we're actually accessing the quantum field to move into those answers. And that's going to speak to who we have as a guest today as well. So I'll be excited to introduce him right at the end here, and then we're going to have him in for the rest of the show. It's amazing. So that technology I am using very, very efficiently right now. Of course, I'm testing it out because I pull from the ether, if you will, and we could call it the ether. We could call it the magnetic field of love. We could call it God's love. We could call it anything you want to call it, but it is. And pulling from that field and then applying that energy in a very guided fashion has been instrumental in changing people's lives. So near and far, remote or in person, we've been doing this. Now, I've been using this particular device I introduced to you last time, and that device really takes into account your volition, your actual physical intention. And whatever that intention is, it works in real time. So how is that possible? How does that work? Well, it's no different than when you show up for healing and you actually apply yourself to the possibility of healing. And I want to really bring that home, because many people that are suffering greatly or are frightened to their core based on what they have going on are people that really are looking for a solution, and some people are looking for anything they can find to make it easier. But more importantly, they're looking for hope. They're looking for something that points them in the direction that says, this can change, and it can actually be something that will change. Now, on that note, the device that I was talking about last week, it's really been instrumental in this one particular situation that I'm working with right now. And I have a young woman that basically has head pressure, and she couldn't sit up stopped living her life entirely for 3 months, couldn't drive, couldn't get up, couldn't eat, couldn't function. All the doctors, the neurologists, the chiropractors, everybody had a piece to the puzzle, but nothing solved the problem. And it was really debilitating. I mean, like, seriously debilitating. And when she came here, and I am seeing people personally here for like longer stays and retreats and deep healing, but that's case by case. And so she came and she walked through the door into the healing vortex and immediately felt relief. Within minutes, she was sitting up, she was speaking, she was eating. She's like, I haven't done this in months. I don't know how this is possible even. And when you entrain to an overriding field, you have the opportunity to move into the coherence of that field. So in addition, I applied the device as well as used a one of a kind, you hear me, one of a kind device that I have here that I use for people to get rid of the radiation in their field. Now think about that. We are bombarded with radiation all over the place. And if we can mitigate the radiation in the field, we have an opportunity for the cellular structure to come back up in a livelihood to meet that not only coherent field of the person, but that of the greater field of love. And when you imbue a cell with that possibility again, now you have great hope. So the device that I spoke of last week was the second step to that before I even got my hands on her and had her put that to the pressure, and she could feel a decrease in the pressure. But in her case, we have to rebuild the entire pineal gland, pituitary, all of it. So this is a work in progress, but the next day she took a walk for the first time in 3 months. And yesterday she swam 300 yards. And folks, the answers are here. They are out there. And I really want to impress that upon you. It is oftentimes, as she's learning, our belief system that's in the way of what can be around us, plus whatever you've tumbled into. So let's say in this case, a whole lot of physical radiation is absorbed into the soft tissue. It's held there. It's causing a degradation to the cellular tissue. Now the cellular tissue can't take in light or exchange things the way it should, etc., etc. And there's many variables to that. But the point is, we're not diagnosing. We're just sharing and applying the newest and the latest of what can be that puts us back to that center point where we can receive again. And when we can receive again, now we can apply that which is incoming to the cellular structure. So this is very important, because what happens is I am working with people to move into a space of further coherency. And I usually do that with not only different devices that I have, but I do that with the actual energy through hands and other things. So we're coming to a space where we have the opportunity to meet in a greater field of technology that's at our doorstep. So we have all of the upcoming and amazing Tesla technology at our doorstep. We have the med beds. We have people that are coming in for this. We have all kinds of things that are moving into our sphere right now. And people say, are the med beds real? Well, yes, they're real. They're being used by military previously. They're being used by others. We're going to see this technology advance. The concept of light and sound is coming so strongly right now. It's moving into a space of where are we now? And as we come into that space of where are we now, we're going to find ourselves in what would seem like either advanced technology, but in fact it's ancient technology. It's the understanding of how to rebuild things in real time using that coherent field and how we take the coherence of that field and move it into a space of dominion. We will come into that autonomous field. But what we have is we have in the way lots of radiation, lots and lots of difficulty because of what we're processing through our biocenter moment by moment. So as we move along into things, I want to come into a space where you understand more about these things because they're coming. And I always said light and sound would be leading the way. Light and sound would be moving us into that frequency. So people are saying AI is going to do that. Well, AI is capable of being the new limited medical intuitive, if you will, because AI is coming into a space of being able to assess and read, scan the biofield. But actually not just AI, but technology is advancing to the place where they can see frequency. What they don't have is all the subtleties in the field that mediums and medical intuitives and people like that can actually assess and take into account in real time. So when I'm just assessing someone, I can see probably 20 things at once. And I'm looking at all those things, how they combine, what they look like in layers, etc. We will have devices like that do that. But what they're doing is they're correcting the imbalance in the frequency and measuring all the frequency in the body and coming back and correcting it. But what happens in the volition? What happens in the actual intention of the person? So we're going to be looking at that too as we go over time. But so far, the device that I shared with you last week is doing wonders. And the one I'm talking about that's like cancels the radiation, well, that's a whole different ballgame. I'm not going to showcase that here, but I will tell you about it. So I'd like to thank Black Law Manufacturing for today's show. And they have your precision manufacturing down to fine science and proven traffic solutions. So if you go to blacklawmfg.com, you can check it out there. And if you and your township or you know someone that's moving heavy loads through a township or need this, you want to check it out and contact them. So they make this show possible for us, and I just want to say thank you. A shout out to Black Law Manufacturing. They're out of Houston, Texas, and Edmonton, Alberta. So thank you very much for sponsoring our shows and letting us carry on. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back, and we'll have more for you right here on Making Life Brighter.
One man is growing old and One man is being told that.
Welcome back to Making Life Brighter with host and leading medical intuitive Winifred Adams on the Voice America Variety Channel, your preferred choice for conscious education and entertainment, featuring experts in their field and visionaries preparing the planet for the golden age and beyond. For more information, visit us at makinglifebrighter.com in the media section. Be sure to like us on Facebook at Making Life Brighter. If you have questions or comments, please email us at radio@makinglifebrighter.com. That's radio@makinglifebrighter.com. And now, back to the show with your host, Winifred Adams.
All right, we're back. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Great to have you with us today. So we have a special guest today, but again, I'm going to shout out our sponsor for today's show, and that is blacklawmfg.com. That's Black Law Manufacturing out of Houston, Texas, and Edmonton, Alberta. They do precision manufacturing and proven traffic solutions. So special thanks and shout out to them for making this show possible today. And I have a very special guest. This is a really wonderful, wonderful show. We have Winston Miekle, and he is a registered nurse, but he is a seasoned nurse leader, and he's a healthcare innovator. He actually is a visionary in the field and has over 40 years experience. He's created a mobile lab technology, and it helps with diagnostics and phlebotomy and specimen collection mobily, and it's actually DOT compliant, which is something that we're talking about with the Black Law Manufacturing. They're DOT compliant. Molecular diagnostics and DNA testing. And he also has a MLT School of Phlebotomy, which we're going to get into. And he has a very special program that he's founded called Loving Care Partners. And at the heart of his work, he's advocating and committing to helping families in the healthcare system and have a more compassionate experience of their healthcare, and an intelligent one at that. So we're going to get into all that. Please welcome Winston Meikle. Winston, nice to have you here on Making Life Brighter today.
Hello, Winifred, and thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you today, talking with you and addressing your audience.
Thank you. So let's talk about your career. You've been a registered nurse, and tell us a little bit about your field and expertise.
Well, I started out in the world of healthcare as a teen. As a teenager, I was a home health aide at 16 years old. I started my first nursing program my last year in high school, and I completed my LPN 7 months after graduating from high school, and I was a licensed practical nurse at 18 years old. And I've spent my entire adult life in the service of humanity as a nurse since then. And it's been a honor and a pleasure to be in service of humanity through my nursing career. So I love it. I continue to love it. And through that journey, I've been exposed to some things that people may call minor miracles or significant coincidences or happenstances that inspired me to gather it and make it a formal theory for nursing care delivery.
Give us an example of what you've seen as a miracle like that.
Well, patients who have been virtually written off by the standard medical practice, saying that there's no hope for them, this is a lost cause, and the encounter with a family member who's traveled a long distance to come and see them, just interacting with them in their unconscious state, might have you, where we're assuming that the patient could not possibly be aware of their presence, but miraculously becoming conscious and aware, interacting with their family members in moments when we thought it was fruitless and it was lost cause and it couldn't possibly happen. I've seen miraculous healings where patients have been written off by. I have a story that I tell about an encounter with a Reiki nurse, and I love Reiki nurses and I love Reiki, but this one particular nurse, and I tell the story, but I have to say, she came in a moment where this patient was probably inside or outside of their body, deciding whether or not they want to be in this world or the next world. And she came out of the room and verbalized to me that she believed that this patient won't be here 3 days from now. And I thanked her for her service, and I asked her to not come back to the room. Don't come back to see my patient, because that ideation is working against everything I'm working on. And I believe I'm going to save this patient. I have every intention to restore this patient to a state that he can return home to his family. So, with that kind of a energetic ideation, I'd prefer that you don't come back. So, and we turned that patient around. We brought him back and sent him home to his family, where he lived another 10 years after that.
That's
Where
so
it was a very, very tenuous situation. And he was probably very much on the edge and trying to decide which world he wanted to be in.
that's
So,
beautiful. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of that, but how did you bring him back?
or
What did you do?
just going to work with that loving intention to bring him back. Talking to him, even when he wasn't conscious, even when he wasn't responsive, when it was a coma that we thought he may not come out of. Just every day I would go in and I would say my prayers. I would pray with the family members, and we approached it from a love-based perspective, a love-based orientation, where we didn't entertain the possibility of him not coming back. We didn't even give it a consideration. We knew what we were intending on creating here, so we just approached it from that perspective, day in, day out, over a couple of months, and
Everybody
restored.
needs nurses like you. Everyone needs somebody. Now, when you say you pray, here's a good point. Within a hospital, people can have all different belief systems. Does it matter to you what their belief system is?
Absolutely not. It's all, when you think about it, all the major religious belief systems have a love-based orientation. Anything outside of that is a defiance of their core tenets, right? If you don't have a loving orientation, you're not really in the faith, right? So there's a, I often say that love is my religion, so it doesn't separate me from anyone. I don't, it doesn't, I'm not separated from any belief system when I take on that perspective, so.
That's a beautiful perspective, and you've been instrumental. This is what you're carrying through in your book as well. Let's
Yeah.
just touch on your book, because you have authored this book besides all your programs, all of which we're going to get to today. But let's talk about what inspired your book. And your book is something that is now out and available for people, right? And they can read that book, The Power
Yes.
of Love, a Nursing Theory. Let's go into what inspired your book and how you've come to that.
Well, what inspired my book was all of these occurrences taking place throughout my career, that, well, you say, wow, that defies conventional science. That's not explained by the beliefs that we hold as a. There's more going on here than the five senses explains. I've always said that there's more going on in our reality than conventional science explains, than the five senses can explain. And I just kept making mental notes, and then I became exposed to quantum science, quantum physics. And
In what way were you exposed to it? Like, what do you mean?
I saw an article that explained the quantum physics double slit experiment, which suggested strongly that mind over matter is a real thing. And I said, wow, you know what? If that's the case, that may be the explanation for these things that I've been observing. That may be the reason why these things are taking place that defies conventional explanations. And then I read the book Quantum, that talked about the 1927 Savoy meeting in Brussels, Belgium, which was attended by Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr, where they spent that conference debating the nature of our reality. And Niels Bohr in the quantum physics realm, quantum entanglement and observer effect, participatory reality, and Albert Einstein in the particle physics, time space continuum world. And there were, opposing positions. And that debate went on for some time. And then I discovered work done by a scientist by the name of Anton Zellinger, who won a Nobel Prize in 2022 in his work, where he observed light from two quasar stars to prove or how you say support the idea of quantum entanglement and observer effect. And at the conclusion of his research, he determined that we're living in a quantum reality as opposed to the particle physics reality as expressed by Albert Einstein. So I was like, that's it. That's the okay. Now in modern times we've now proven that this is a quantum reality that we're experiencing. So if that's the case, then we should be operating from that perspective. As nurses, we should be applying our craft from that perspective, from that orientation, from that knowledge that we're living in a participatory, energetic, conscious, loving universe. And the observer effect is real, and we are participating in the manifestation and creation of our reality. So we should act from that perspective and apply that to how we deliver care.
Now, do you actually teach that to other nurses or teach in hospitals this concept and
Yes,
this
well,
position?
I just published last year, and I'm trying to get the word out. I've always said this to my colleagues and my patients. I, as a cardiac surgery ICU nurse, I worked in a cardiac surgery intensive care unit where we took patients out of the operating room, and when they would just had their heart in someone's hands minutes before I encountered them, and I would restore them to life and bring them back to a level where they can get out of the ICU and go on with their recovery journey. And when they wake up, one of the first things I tell them, because I have to ask them to do difficult things in order to facilitate their recovery. Coughing and deep breathing and moving when your chest was just split open is a very, very difficult thing to do. You know what I
I've
mean? So
seen that. It people would not sign up for that if they knew what it entailed.
and I say that all the time.
God bless you.
Yeah, so I had to encourage them and motivate them to do these difficult things because it was in their best interest. So I would often say to them, your recovery is not a passive endeavor. It's not something that you let happen to you. It's something that you do. You have to be actively participating in this to bring about the best possible outcome. So I'm going to ask you to do things that are difficult, but it'll get you to the place that you want to be in your recovery. And would tell them this is the only occasion when I would ask someone to not be in present time. I would ask them, don't think about how you feel right now, but think about where you'll be in 3 weeks when this is just a memory. Think about what you'll be doing at the poolside with your family, enjoying your family and your loved ones. Think about that. Keep your mind focused on that outcome. Don't think about the fear and the pain that you're experiencing now. And I would say this is an active endeavor. So let's get actively involved in your recovery. And
That
I
is
would encourage them to do what they need
that,
to do.
that's a beautiful thing. We are going to take a quick break and then we'll be back right here more with Winston Meikle, and he's written the book that is speaking to the entire process of what he's talking about, the power of love and nursing theory. And it's about marrying together quantum physics, the science of quantum, as well as love and consciousness. And I think that's just so imperative. People are so frightened of hospitals after COVID and all that. So someone like yourself is bringing forth not only hope, but trust again, and trust in medical system and loving care, which seems to have a little bit of urgency around it right now. So I think your book might have perfect timing in the world. Have you noticed that people are responding well to this?
Yes, actually, I've participated in about 7, 8 podcast appearances now, talking about this, and it's been well received by everyone. It's really encouraging.
It is
Positive
encouraging, and
response that I'm getting.
we will be right back with more. We're going to get into his programs and how he has come to some of the conclusions he has, because all of his programs are changing lives everywhere and they're making lives brighter. So that's what we're all about here. And we will be right back with Winston Meikle. And stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
One man is growing old and one man is being told that
You are listening to Making Life Brighter, a presentation by the Quantum Galaxy Network for the Variety Channel on Voice America, featuring visionaries, thought leaders, and consciousness experts leading the way as we prepare the planet for the golden age and beyond. Right here on Making Life Brighter Radio with your host, leading medical intuitive Winifred Adams. Be sure to download the app. For more information, go to makinglifebrighter.com under Media. Now, back to the show with your host, Winifred Adams.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We have a special show for you today with Winston Miekle, and we're featuring him and his book and all of his amazing programs. He's a registered nurse, and he has an MBA and MSN, and he is a healthcare innovator. He's a visionary in the field of medical today, and he's working to integrate consciousness into healthcare, and he's doing such an amazing job, not only at work on the spot with people and having the heart of an angel as he's working with people, but rather he's advocating for guiding families and patients. So Winston, let's talk a little bit about your programs. You have a phlebotomy and specimen collection program, and you have another foundation that you're the Loving Care Partners. So let's talk about the phlebotomy program first. What is that?
Yes, well, Mobile Lab Techs is a company that I formed that provides mobile clinical diagnostic services. For just about as long as I've been a nurse, the industry has been talking about decentralizing services, taking the services out of the hospital, bringing it out into the community where it's more accessible to the community. And as the baby boomers are aging now, they are having mobility issues. Some are bedbound, some have whatever mobility impairments. So accessing clinical diagnostic services could be a challenge, especially here in New Jersey during the winters. The winters can be harsh, and family members often say to me, "Wow, this is a great service because getting them to the doctor, getting them to the lab would have been such an arduous task. If they are using a wheelchair and they have to, trudge through the snow with the wheelchair and then packing the wheelchair in the trunk and then taking them out of the car. That's a very difficult process." So I thought about that. And I said, what kind of services how can I facilitate decentralizing some of the services that patients have to take advantage of? And I came up with Mobile Lab Techs, which is we provide services in 4 service divisions. We have the phlebotomy and specimen collections for clinical labs. We have mobile radiology services where we provide x-rays, ultrasounds, and all complete radiology services. Drug and alcohol testing for DOT compliance for all vehicles that are on the road, that they're compliant with the drug and alcohol testing compliance programs, and molecular DNA and diagnostics, where we do pandemic pathogen testing and paternity testing. That's the 4 divisions. And we do this all in a mobile capacity where we bring the services to patients. And our motto for that company, we have 2 mottos actually. The first one is bringing the diagnostic services you need to the locations that you want. And for providers, the second motto is don't send your patients to the lab, send the labs to your patients.
I love that. That is, everyone would probably love that. Honestly, that is brilliant. So is that only in New Jersey, or is it?
Right now, yes, the services I provide is in New Jersey, yes. But
Okay,
we're planning to expand it nationally. That's the ultimate plan, to make it available throughout the nation.
So Winston needs a shark, and from Shark Tank, he needs a shark, and he needs to bring it nationwide.
It would be great if I could have some help with getting it fully blown up to a national presence.
That is so beautiful.
I think it's a beneficial service. I really do, and I get a lot of positive feedback from the patients and family members who we serve.
I'm sure it's easier because 90% of the time, the difficulty is, do I have a driver? Can I get there that day? Something happens and they miss an appointment and they need to make it up, but they really need the timing of that. And they can't get someone then again to go and try and help them at that time. This is real, and you're addressing a very serious problem in the industry, but the inspiration is beautiful. So let's talk about your second program that you have, the newest, the latest of your inspirations.
Yes, Loving Care Partners. Loving care partner. Okay, let me see how. Um, it was inspired by experience I had with one of my best friends, someone I've known since I was 9 years old. And we were on a golfing trip, and we're talking about some of the things that were going on at the time. And this is 2022 at the height of COVID. And I was just trying to give him some advice to how to deal with that situation. And he was like, "Oh no, I'm going to trust my doctor. I'm going to, my doctor is, telling me this, that, and the other thing, and I have to believe her. I'm going to go along with what she's recommending." I said, "But if your doctor is in possession of bad information, even in her best intentions, she's going to give you bad information as well." And he says to me, "No, I'm going to trust my doctor." And that stuck me. That stung me because I'm like, here I am in possession of information that can help you to help prevent you from injury. But you don't believe me, you would rather listen to your doctor. So I said, okay, I have to help people because there's information out there that's opposing the national narrative that is proven by science that is not being allowed out, that's not being spoken of widely. And you need to be aware of it. So I'm like, and another thing is, do you know that, you know what the third leading cause of death is in America?
No, what is it?
Behind heart disease and cancer? Medical malpractice.
Yikes.
Listen to your doctor doing the best they can in their best intentions is the third leading cause of death in America. So
As a healthcare professional on the inside of all that, you're kind of alluding to the fact that you've seen some of these things without saying it. And so how do you feel about that?
well, I don't, okay. I'm a clinical professor and I teach nurses, right? My class is transition to professional practice. I teach senior nursing students, and I prepare them for actual clinical work. And when I meet them, I said, when you get your job, who will you be working for? And they'll say, I work for this hospital, but that's the hospital. No, I said, no. I said, think again. Who do you're employed by this hospital, but who do you work for? And I say, you work for your patients. Before everything else and before anything else, you're here to serve your patients. And we are just highly skilled, highly qualified servants. Wrap your heads around that, and you'll be fine in your career. Understand that we're here to serve, and we're here to serve our patients, not the hospital, not the doctor, not the institution. We're here to serve our patients, and our patients are our primary concern. Period. And I've held that belief my entire career that I'm the system be damned. I'm going to help people, and that's what I'm here for. So I've always taken that position. So it's been difficult in helping people sometimes when you're inside the belly of the beast, and the beast has got them fear-based orientation, leading them down paths that are not serving them. But I always try to take my loving approach to guide them towards a better understanding. But because through better understanding, better decisions can be made, better approaches can be taken, and better outcomes can be created.
Well,
You
your
know,
level and your sound and your approach to things and your calmness, I'm sure, imparts your message well for people because you're moving along and you're not only talking about it, you're doing it. And you're
yeah,
creating these things that are helping people so that they can get what they need despite any confusion or other variables or whatever it might be, because there's probably plenty of great things and miracles through that, but there's also the system, and that's difficult, but you're sorting out the system. So let's talk about your most recent endeavor a little bit more.
Loving Care Partners is a healthcare consumer advocacy platform where we help to empower people who encounter the healthcare system through education and information, guiding them to better decision making and empowerment through knowledge and understanding. When you know more, you're able to respond better. So we provide information in documents and video tutorials and consultations and educational sessions where we'll help people to experience the healthcare system from a more empowered position. You come to see us, you tell us about your experience and what you're going through, and we'll give you the most love-based perspective about it, the most powerful information that is available. Because sometimes useful and powerful information can be suppressed by the system, which is self-serving. And unfortunately, as a healthcare provider for 43 years, I've been in the system, I've been in the belly of the beast. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of how healthcare works. And I'm very partial to the fact that the system is self-serving. I've seen it. I know it. I've taken opposition to it. I want to serve people, and I don't want to serve the system. The system puts the patient at number 4 in their list of priorities after profits, liability protection, and public image. Then the patient's concerns are addressed because they want to protect their ability to continue to earn. So all those three things come before actually serving the patients. I've seen how banking institutions, the insurance companies, can have an impact on clinical decision making, which is just abhorrent to me. That you're a financial institution and you get to decide whether someone lives or dies because you could deny their treatment or deny payment of their treatment, and systems are not going to say, okay, we'll do it for you or we'll pay for it for you. No, the insurance won't pay for it, so we're not going to do it. I've had instances where patients in the operating room and they get a call. The insurance company is not going to pay for the procedure, and they stop the procedure.
Oh, that's
That's
got to be the
that's
worst
it's
heartbreaking thing to see.
yes, it's horrible. So understanding that, I said people need to be empowered by understanding what their options are, how they can take a different approach. A lot of times I see patients in my clinical setting in the ICU, and I said, if I met you 10, 15 years ago, I could have possibly prevented you from being here, by guiding you to better lifestyle practices that would have prevented you from ending up as a patient who had open heart surgery. You know,
Could I just ask you, would that apply to people just in the United States, or is this information helpful to anyone around the world or in other
it's
countries too?
the platform is designed to help people from around the world. It's going to be offered in multiple languages. The video tutorials, I'm inviting nurses from around the world to follow my format for their
Okay.
presentations to
Well,
provide information about procedures or hospital experiences from their cultural perspective in their own languages so that someone from anywhere in the world can tap into and access that information in their own language.
we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back and we're going to address this some more because this is really important. It's the question on everybody's mind. We'll be right back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio. Stay tuned. We have more with Winston Miekle right here.
Welcome back. For more information, please visit us at makinglifebrighter.com. If you'd like more information on intuitive coaching, coursework, or to book an appointment with medical intuitive Winifred Adams, please email us at radio@makinglifebrighter.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook and download the app. Go to makinglifebrighter.com for more information. And now, back to the show with your host, Winifred Adams.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Today we have special guest Winston Miekle, and he is the author of Power of Love, a Nursing Theory, and he is combining love, consciousness, and quantum science into the healthcare system, and he is taking a firm stand in his belief system, and he is also the creator of different programs that are helping people, particularly on the East Coast, and he looks forward to expanding all across the United States and maybe worldwide even with his programs that are helping patients, like the Loving Care Partners program and his mobile diagnostic platform as well. So Winston, let's step back into what it is that drives you behind this conviction of both your book and these programs that you've created to help patients.
What drives me is my love for humanity. I take a loving orientation to my existence. As I said before, love is my religion, and I truly care for humanity, and I want to bring about any benefit that I can through my efforts and energies to help humanity and people. And knowledge is power, understanding is power, empowering, and that's what drives me. I want to be a benefit to the world.
I think you're already a benefit to the world. You've probably been a benefit to all kinds of people, especially in the time of need in these diagnostic scenarios where now what? And they didn't think, they were confused. I would say you probably brought a lot of clarity to their...
Absolutely. That's what I like to think. I brought clarity to scenarios that they're experiencing. And, a lot of times patients are in the healthcare setting and providers are talking to them and using words that just go over their head, and people just nod and go along with it because they believe that, the person speaking to them actually is working in their best interest in all aspects. And, they may have the intention to be helpful, but they're driven by their profit-driven motivation. So they want you to say yes, and they'll say whatever they can to get you to say yes in a lot of scenarios, So
I have an interesting question for you, though. Based on what you've experienced, do you think that social healthcare systems like Canada are better than the U.S., or is the U.S. better than Canada?
They both have their benefits and drawbacks, right? In America, their system is open, and you have easier access into it for the most part. Whereas Canada, they're not driven by profit as much, so it's sometimes underserving because there's not enough providers in that system to meet the demands of all the people that want to access it. So there's oftentimes a long waiting time to get the services that you need, and accessing it is not as easy. But I like the fact that they're taking the profit-driven motivation out of their system. Mm-hmm. Where it's just available, it's free, and everybody can access it without having to put because one of the number one causes of bankruptcy in America is medical bills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you might be able to get to it, but if you don't have the money, you're not going to be able to access it. And the insurance payers who pay for the services can have an impact on whether or not you get the services or not. And they can say, well, we're paying for this, but we're not paying for that. I've heard recently some patients have told me that my healthcare payer just changed, and the medication that I was getting for next to nothing from the other payer is now costing me more than I can afford to pay for it. So I don't have ability to get that medication anymore, and those type of things. So they both have their good and their bad,
Do you believe we're going to a better place?
I I have to believe so. I have to believe. Well, I'm trying to bring about the knowledge and understanding that will help us to get there. You know what I mean?
I think so,
And
really. I think people
empowering
like
people.
yourself, yeah.
You know what I mean? I have to believe that because that's my desire and intention in what I'm doing is to get us to a better place. We got a better place, even if it's not from the institutional side of the equation, if it's from the consumer side of the equation, where the patients are more empowered and able to be better participants and actively involved in creating a better scenario for themselves because they have a greater understanding and they can be actively and effectively engaging with their providers to say, I understand it. So yeah, I that point of view maybe I don't agree with, and I'd like to see if there's an alternative perspective, alternative way of approaching my problem or my situation.
So are you
So
crowdsourcing or looking for funding to expand this program and the other ones that you
I
have?
haven't, I'm just spreading the word and then gonna just see how we can find investors to help out in expanding it.
You need that. This is really important. The work you're doing is really needs a reach all the way across. It should be easily in every state, no problem, and
Yeah,
not affiliated necessarily with hospitals, but rather just its independence toward the area that it's in. I can see that. That'd be amazing. So everybody out there who can reach out further and further and share, Winston's programs need to go far and wide.
yes, please spread the word. That's what I would like to see, but that it becomes nationally present, that people are aware of what we're doing, and not just for me though. You know what I mean? I would like people to understand their power that they hold within to help facilitate better outcomes for themselves.
Absolutely, like a proactive approach toward their healing.
Yes, instead of passive and just going along and saying yes to everything that's told to them when they didn't fully understand what was told to them. And that happens far too often. People just go along and say, okay, yeah, 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 when they really didn't get it. So a lot of times I'm present in these explanations when the provider is talking to a patient and the doctor says something to them, and then they say, yeah, yeah, yeah. I said, did you understand what he said? Do you really know what he said to you? Because you just agreed to something that I don't know if you really wanted to agree to. And it was all they all kind of when I said, well, all right, let me break it down in just plain English for you. Let me tell you what he said. Let me interpret doctor speak into regular language for you. And I would go, oh, really? That's what, okay. Oh, no, no, let's do something else. I'm like, okay. So I've been involved in those type of scenarios often where you just say yes, 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 but they really didn't get it at all. So I was like, oh,
Well, the book is the Power of Love, a Nursing Theory, and I just want to thank you for being here on our show today. I'd love to have you come live on the Making Life Brighter YouTube some night and talk this through in a live scenario as well, additionally, because I think there's more to this story and I'd like to have you back. What makes your life brighter?
Seeing, I'm addicted to seeing my efforts result in being in someone's life being better.
All right.
As a cardiac surgeon, intensive care unit nurse, and taking someone from the brink of death and watching them leave my unit in a restored fashion and in a better state. I don't know any other way or place to get that feeling. I don't know. I got used to that. I love that feeling to see. You see, I did that. I was involved in that. You see that person's thriving over there? I did that.
God bless you, Winston. His book is The Power of Love, Nursing Theory. And Winston, what's your website?
Poweroflovetheory.com.
There you go. That's it.
Poweroflovetheory.com.
That's it. Thank you so much for being here and making life brighter. Go jolly, everybody. Go out there and make somebody else's life brighter. And please share the show. You can catch the archive on the Voice America Media channel on my host page, Making Life Brighter. All right. We will see Winston again here soon, hopefully, because I think there's more to this story. So thank you for being with us today. Go jolly,
Thank you
everybody.
for having me. Thank